The spread of fanaticism and increasingly regular terrorist attacks are causing panic, fear, and hardship around the world. Pressure is being put on those countries with terrorist ties to eradicate radicalism in order to preserve international peace. Join us as we explore how and why China and Pakistan continue to remain staunch allies in their efforts to encourage terrorism and obstruct world peace. After paying tribute to the victims of the 26/11 terrorist attacks at the Taj Hotel in Mumbai, United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres stated that there is no justification for any kind of terrorism, and that doing away with terrorism should be a top priority for all nations in the world. 10 members of the Pakistani Islamist terrorist group Lashkar-e-Taiba carried out 12 synchronized bombing and shooting attacks over the course of 4 days in 2008 in the financial hub of India. 9 attackers were among the 175 fatalities, while more than 300 people were also injured.
Terrorism is absolute evil. There are no reasons, no pretexts, no causes, no grievances that can justify terrorism. Terrorism is absolute evil, and terrorism has no room in today's world. So I feel deeply moved to be here, where one of the most barbaric terrorist acts in history took place, where 166 people lost their lives.
The UN chief's words were a responsible call to the world to be vigilant to the threats of global terrorism, and they were endorsed by many. However, actions in the United Nations by a few member nations were not aligned with Guterres' speech in Mumbai. It came as no surprise that China and Pakistan undermined India's efforts in the United Nations to combat terrorism. Beijing recently blocked a US and Indian resolution calling for the blacklisting of Pakistan-based terrorist Hafiz Saeed, the son of the architect of the Mumbai terror attacks, and Lashkar-e-Taiba chief Hafiz Saeed. Observers familiar with UN processes claim that China is abusing its position as a permanent member of the UN Security Council in order to halt the inclusion of Pakistan-based terrorists on the Sanctions Committee of the UN Security Council's Al-Qaeda and ISIL-Daesh organization. Pakistan refuses to answer questions at international forums about the terrorists that it harbors within its territory. When questioned during the 90th Interpol General Assembly in New Delhi about the extradition of organized crime figure Dawood Ibrahim and on turning over Hafiz Saeed, the Pakistani delegate kept quiet.
Hafiz Saeed and Dawood Ibrahim most wanted hai India mein. Kya aap Bharat ko saupenge?
While speaking at the conference, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, however, called for international action to stop the financing of terrorism.
When threats are global, the response cannot be just local. It is time, and it is high time, that the world comes together to defeat these threats. Friends, India has been combating transnational terrorism for several decades, long before the world woke. Up to it, we knew the price of safety and security.
Numerous terrorist organizations such as the Al-Qaeda, Jaish-e-Mohammed, and Lashkar-e-Jhangvi continue to thrive in Pakistan. Pakistan has applauded its own efforts over steps taken to combat terrorism on numerous international venues, including at the United Nations and the Financial Action Task Force. And although the FATF has recently removed Pakistan from its grey list of terror financing and money laundering after 4 years on the list, Pakistan still gives shelter, money, and training to terrorist groups. India has been a victim of cross-border terrorism for more than 30 years. India, with an eye on global safety, has regularly informed the United Nations about its neighbors' continued indifference to investigations into the financing of terrorism and to the prosecution of senior commanders and leaders of UN-designated terrorist organizations. India will not be fazed by China and Pakistan's tactics and will continue to hold the countries accountable for their roles in global terrorism. Over 200 rotting human corpses on a hospital roof. The graphic imagery of scores of unidentified human bodies lying exposed on the roof of a hospital morgue in Multan, in Pakistan's Punjab province, has shaken the conscience of people world over. The Pakistani government has failed to provide a satisfactory response as to who these people were and how their bodies have been left to decompose without dignity. An investigation was ordered as soon as these images became viral on social media. Pakistan has a dubious history of failing to locate activists and dissidents who had mysteriously disappeared from the Balochistan province in the last 2 decades. Some believe these bodies lying on the roof could be the same people who had disappeared, lost forever to the tactics of the Pakistani spy agency, the ISI.
Activists are believing that those persons who are disappeared from Balochistan, from Sindh, or from KP, Pakhtunkhwa, they all were taken to Multan, the first place where they are being tortured or kept for in the incommunicado was that Multan. So they were there. This is the story what I know from the statements of these disappeared persons who were recovered.
Tariq Saman Gujar, the Chief Minister of Punjab's advisor, visited the scene after receiving information from a source regarding the decomposing bodies on the mortuary's roof. The incident has spurred a discussion on the country's growing number of missing persons cases, including those involving students, political activists, and other intellectuals from the provinces of Balochistan, Sindh, and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. In Pakistan, inter-services intelligence, the army, and military intelligence are routinely accused of being involved in kidnapping and torturing members of civil society, forced disappearances, and extrajudicial executions. The Commission of Inquiry on Enforced Disappearances in Pakistan has received 8,463 complaints regarding enforced disappearances since March of 2011. The commission was created by the government in March of 2011. However, the Islamabad High Court recently noted that it had failed to give victims justice. Only 1/3 of the incidents reported to the commission were tracked, and little efforts were made to punish officials responsible for failing to follow orders to produce those wrongfully detained. Last year, Amnesty International, the United Kingdom-based rights group, released Living Ghosts, a document about the effect of such illegal abductions on the families of those who go missing. The country's military and its spy agencies remain beyond the reach of Pakistan's criminal justice system. Human rights observers now demand stricter international sanctions on Pakistan for regularly violating human rights.
Pakistani army is behind the abduction of the Baloch people and dumping the dead bodies of Baloch people in such way. Earlier we have received dead bodies they used to thrown at deserts, hanging them at trees. So that was an act of the Pakistani army to terror the whole society.
Families of those missing in Pakistan's main cities have been demonstrating to demand justice and to demand the prompt return of their loved ones. Non-governmental organizations have also been keeping records of persons who have gone missing, been slain extrajudicially, and been freed after being detained. However, despite efforts of such organizations and families, instances of forced disappearances are now commonplace in Pakistan, where law enforcement officials continually silence critics. The United Nations have said that forced disappearances have frequently been employed as a tactic to sow fear throughout society. This behavior not only leaves the immediate relatives of the missing anxious and terrified, but it also impacts communities and larger society as a whole. The discovery of the remains in Multan have shocked people the world over. Eyes are on Pakistan and their continued human rights abuses. However, it remains to be seen whether Pakistan will ever give in to global pressure and protect the human rights of its common citizens.